ladies and gentlemen, is going to be on the topic beauty and personal care. Crafting the future, strategies for building a beauty and personal care brand in India with a focus on innovation, consumer needs, packaging strategy, and quality testing. This session will talk about building a successful personal care brand in this competitive landscape requires strategic foresight, a deep understanding of consumer needs.
And listeners, the second session of beauty and personal care will start shortly in 5 minutes. The speakers for the session are Nikita Rustagi, Anurag, Kedia, Ashish, Mishra, Pardeep, Wazir, Sakhuja, and Suyash, Saraf. I request everyone to join session near conference area. Thank you.
The session will focus on building a successful personal care brand in this competitive landscape requires strategic foresight, a deep understanding of consumer needs, and a commitment to rigorous quality testing. This session will delve into the essential strategies for crafting the future of personal care brands in India with a keen focus on innovation, consumer centricity, and quality assurance. With immense pleasure, I would like to invite on stage our moderator for this session, one and only Nikita Rustagi, Regional Director, Centdegres. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for her, please. I can't hear the claps from this side. Come on. With a stellar career spanning over a decade, Nikita is a revered figure in the world of design and brand management. Her unparalleled expertise and visionary leadership have garnered acclaim, positioning her as a thought leader in the industry. Once again, a very warm welcome to her. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Joining Nikita, we have our esteemed panelist, Anurag Kedia, co-founder, Pilgrim. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for him. Anurag's passion for holistic wellness and Ayurvedic remedies led to the creation of Pilgrim, redefining the standards of skincare and personal care. In this panel discussion, Anurag will share insights into the strategies behind building a successful personal care brand in India. Once again, a very warm welcome to Mr. Anurag Kedia. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause. Joining them, we have Ashish Mishra, co-founder and chief business officer, Clensta. A warm welcome to Ashish Mishra. Ashish is a seasoned industry leader with nearly 2 decades of experience in the personal care and wellness sector. Throughout his illustrious career, he has held key leadership positions in renowned companies. Ashish will be sharing his wealth of knowledge and expertise today here with us in this session. Once again, a warm welcome to Ashish. Thank you for being here with us. Next, I would like to invite Suyash Saraf, co-founder, Dot and Key. A warm welcome to Suyash. With over a decade of experience in the FMCG and real estate industries, Suyash is a seasoned leader with a history of delivering exceptional results. He has been instrumental in revolutionizing the skincare market in India. So warm welcome to Suyash. Ladies and gentlemen, please, a huge round of applause. Next, I would like to invite on stage Sandhya Sakhuja, Director, Vedic Cosmeceuticals Private Limited. A warm welcome to Sandhya. Sandhya has a rich academic background, complementing her extensive industry experience. Over the course of nearly 2 decades, Sandhya has honed her expertise in various facets of the beauty care industry. Once again, a warm welcome to Sandhya. Thank you for being here with us today. Next, I would like to invite on stage Pardeep Wazir, Chief Transformation Officer, Mahika Packaging. A warm welcome and a huge round of applause for Pardeep Wazir. With over 29 years of distinguished experience in the packaging industry, Pardeep brings unparalleled insights into business transformation, organizational development, and innovation excellence. In this panel discussion, Pradeep will share invaluable insights on leveraging packaging innovation to build successful beauty and personal care brands in India. Once again, a huge, huge round of applause and a warm welcome to Pradeep. Ladies and gentlemen, please note, Naya Sagi was supposed to join us today, the group co-founder of The Good Glam Group, but due to some last-minute emergency, she could not be here with us. Over to you, Nikita.
Good afternoon, everyone. So welcome to this exciting panel discussion at CMPL at the Geo Convention Center. Today we are here to kind of deep dive into a topic which has seen, I would say, immense innovation and growth over the past couple of years, which is the beauty and personal care industry. So, of course, the growth that we have seen, it's led by a burgeoning middle class, increasing consumer awareness, rising digitization, and of course, increase of distribution channels where brands are now creating higher accessibility to consumers. So today we are joined by a distinguished panel of industry leaders who have been at the forefront of this transformation. They are pioneers and innovators who have navigated the challenges of the dynamic market to build brands that reasonably that deep dive into building impact with diverse Indian consumers. So here today, this is what we call as the ecosystem of the personal care industry. And each of them bring a unique perspective on various facets, be it innovation, product development, brand management, understanding, meeting diverse consumer needs, to the critical aspect of packaging and formulation, and adhering to quality standards. So without further ado, I would maybe like to start just with an open-ended question to the entire panel. That can maybe each of you describe briefly what have you seen as the most significant change in the beauty and personal care industry over the past couple of years. So maybe we can start with Anurag. Yeah.
So very interesting question, Nikita. I think, when I was scrolling my LinkedIn feed today, the food farmer, a very popular influencer, has started a campaign that's more in the context of beauty in food, where he started a campaign of Label Padhega India. I think that has already been happening in beauty, where all consumers have now started reading the label, and not just front of the pack, but what is called as back of the pack, in terms of what are the ingredients which have gone in, which order have they gone in, and if certain claims are being made by any brand, is the label making sense, and is the label correlating with the claims which the brand has made. It is a welcome trend. There are some downsides because sometimes it can lead to misinterpretations because of half knowledge. But I think it's a welcome trend that consumers have started taking beauty very seriously and started reading labels a lot more. We see this entire movement around, which molecule, whether hyaluronic acid, which is a very difficult molecule to pronounce even today for me, or vitamin C, or whether it is niacinamide or niacinamide. So all of these ingredients are playing a very critical role. Consumers are very aware, and that's helping the industry move forward. At the same time, the role which I think dermats, beauty influencers are playing in consumer education is a very big one. So if we look at the sunscreen industry just 5 years back, hardly anybody was using a sunscreen. However, this entire ecosystem of dermats, beauty influencers have told us how important a sunscreen is, even when we are sitting in a closed-door environment like ours right now. So this entire education about using which product for what need, the importance of different beauty products, correct layering of products, all of this is a big movement. It comes with its own pitfalls because sometimes it can lead to half knowledge, but it's a matter of time. As we progress, I think more and more will get improved.
Yeah, I think just to pick where Anurag left, I think very important point that label Padhega India. I feel the challenges right now, or what we are moving towards, is a very evolved consumers, right? I mean, if you go 5-7 years back, and traditional media used to be the only source. Whatever you've printed in the newspaper was like enough for consumers. But right now, people are, as and when digitization is increasing, it is important. People are getting involved. People are reading more. So it is important that you create a product which is for everyone, and which has a very neat and clean messaging as to what are you trying to do out of your product from a consumer lens perspective. So it is important that you closely watch the consumer needs across geographies. You talk to your own consumers more, because there is always a scope of improvement if you talk to your consumers. So very, very important, and an evolved phase is what we all are entering into. So it's important to be as honest and as transparent as you can be, and that's going to be the long-term sustainable game as per me.
I think because of digitization, the world is becoming flat. So if there's an innovation happening in Brazil, consumers in India want it. If there's innovation happening in America, people in India want it. So I think people are more aware of what's happening, what's available, and I think there's a lot of pressure on Indian brands to kind of cater to those evolving needs of the Indian consumer looking at the world. So I think that's significantly changing the dynamics of what consumers want and how fast brands need to move to cater to these demands of the consumer.
Hi, so I think from a formulator's lens and from a manufacturer's lens, one size fits all is not happening anymore. So I think the cold cream that used to be one cream for the entire family is not happening anymore. I think the consumer is knowledgeable, is willing to experiment. I think earlier we would feel skincare, oh, people are loyal to their brand, they won't shift. I think the influx of D2C brands have clearly shown that people are willing to experiment. And I think more specific need, what do you have for me, is what's going to be the way ahead. So I think that's a big change from the formulator's lens that when we are creating new products, we feel. So I think a lot of scope there and a lot of pressure on formulations for sure.
Yeah, from a packaging perspective, I would say I would divide the trends in pre-COVID and post-COVID. And as my panelists said, consumer got a lot of time during COVID to experiment, to get familiar with the molecules and what molecules can do for the efficacy and what the molecule can do for them. So they have become more knowledgeable. Second, as it was said that whatever is available in other parts of the world, immediately transition, the aspiration is to have it as of yesterday. So that's the aspiration. Third is, I would say, consumer wants clarity. They do not want confusion while buying a product. The first moment of truth when you look at the product has to be very, very familiar. And second moment of truth has to be wow. So that is what consumers want now. Thank you.
So I'm going to kind of just break the flow of my questions here, because something which I picked up is, of course, that one size doesn't fit all. So everyone's working on novel ingredients. Consumer education is extremely important. And of course, packaging differentiation. Now let's kind of interlink all of this together. How can brands today in the beauty and personal care market, where there are honestly brands being launched pretty much every month, how can you create differentiation in terms of formulation, and what is the best way to educate the consumer in terms of the efficacy? So how as you, as brand owners or suppliers, manufacturers, formulation experts, how are you helping brands or helping your own brand achieve that?
Since I have the mic, I'll go first. So a couple of things we try and do is, one, we work very closely with beauty influencers, dermats, where we talk a lot about, what are the benefits, how should the product be used, when should the product be used. The other thing, in the interest of transparency, we do is, if you go on our website on any of the products, the product page will list out every single ingredient which has been used, with the background of where it has been sourced from, whether it's a natural ingredient, whether it's a lab-made ingredient, and what is the benefit of using that ingredient in the product. So it's a whole host of efforts, even our own social media feeds, our communication which is going through the CRM, will talk a lot about trying to explain each product, justifying, what the products can do, helping the consumers understand. We probably get close to a few thousand, questions, comments, feedback through our social media channel, through our WhatsApp, through our calls, all of which, we have a large team to kind of engage with the consumers to try and explain and address their queries in the best possible manner. So I think different brands will take different routes. This is how we have tried to do it.
I think innovation is a very important, piece when it comes to especially the personal care. And innovation has been at the core of Clensta. We are the brand who took 3 years just for creating a base on the R&D before even commercializing our first batch. So, I mean, if I see, I talk to few, people who are aspiring founders. They are in a hurry. I don't know why, but they just want to do something. They think about it today and they want to do it tomorrow. My sincere advice is please don't do that, because we have a different set of consumers now. The era that we are entering into is entirely different. We've created 2 technologies. I just want to talk about a bit about it. So we are globally patent on one technology, which is waterless. So it is globally unique to Clensta, wherein people can take bath without water. I don't know, somebody wouldn't have even thought about it, that how to take a bath without water. But our scientists at IIT Delhi, because we are IIT Delhi backed R&D partners, and IIT is also one of the investors in the company. So along with the research team of IIT, we've created this technology, and it is helping soldiers at the peak who are serving the country. I think that was a solve that we did for an Indian Army soldiers, those who don't have an access to water. And then the patients in the hospitals, those who can't take bath post-surgery. So I think innovation is a very important funnel to look into when you enter into a personal care segment. And it has been at the core. Another technology that we have created is again a patented technology to Clensta, which is a star. So from a consumer lens, star can be a very tricky term to understand, but what we have solved at the back end is a transdermal absorption of actives that you put into the products. Many people don't even know that, the molecule size of vitamin C is bigger than the molecule, pore size of the skin. How will it penetrate? I mean, these are questions to be answered before you even launch, right? And that's a long-term sustainability. That's a long-term vision from a brand that we're trying to solve. So through Star, we've solved our entire personal care range for a deeper penetration, and hence the efficacy. So although you don't teach customer on what the Star is, but when the customer use the product, the efficacy itself talks about what it is. So I think it's important, to keep innovating, keep changing. Another, piece that we've been doing is we talk a lot to our consumers, right? I mean, that's a generic practice, right from the lowest employee of the company to the founders. We ensure that each person is calling at least 100 odd consumers every month. And that's the task that is supposed to be done. And then we have a common, forum where we discuss common issues that is coming. Why are people liking us? What are people not liking? And then a larger set of, feedbacks results into a lot of changes also that we do basis the consumer's feedback. So we try doing that. So if a shampoo is, drying a hair, and at a set of 500, 300 people are saying that it's drying, that means that it needs to be looked into. So you can't just overlook into it just because you think that you've created something out of the box. And you really need to relook into things. And that's what customers feels great about and connected to the brand. So that connect is also very, very important. Yeah.
I think for us, innovation starts from listening to our consumers before we launch the product. So any product that we launch at Dot & Key, we make sure it's coming from an insight or a need gap which already exists in the consumer but not being served. And we take that insight and then we run it through our existing consumers to find out if they really need the product or the solution. And once we get a critical mass of those consumers agreeing that they have not found a certain benefit or certain style of product which they want, that's when we go ahead and launch it. So typically, we have a 100-page document which is made on why that product should be launched before it's launched. I'll give you a small example. We just launched a tinted sunscreen. And we realized that most of the tinted sunscreens in the market today were actually foundations, and they were not sunscreens. And they were, and any CC/BB cream which claims sunscreen was actually used only pea size and not 3 fingers full. So with this small insight, we realized, and sunscreen is supposed to be used 3 fingers full for proper protection. So using this insight, we launched the sunscreen in flexible shades so that consumers can really get the benefit of a sunscreen more than a foundation. So understanding and listening to the consumer before launching the product is key to success. And of course, actually calling the consumers after the product has been launched for the first 3 months, and then calling them up beyond that to find out will they buy again, what did they like about the product, what did they not like about the product. And if they don't like something strongly and we get a critical mass of consumers saying that, we kind of tweak the formulation so that it's liked by a larger critical mass so that it can then sustain over the next few years. So I think this piece of consumer understanding before the launch and after launch experience for the consumer, for the product is absolutely critical to success of any beauty brand is what we feel.
So for us, the primary consumer is the brand, right? So for us, the differentiation starts first understanding how's the brand differentiating themselves, because for end consumer, the differentiation is what the brand really communicates. As formulators and as manufacturers, while it's our endeavor that there has to be differentiation, our strength is that once we understand the brand positioning and we deep dive into which segment is the brand talking to, what is the USP of the brand, how are we going to weave the brand aesthetics into the product so that the product delivers the experience that the brand is promising. So I think that differentiation comes to us from where the brand differentiates itself. And I really don't think any brand launches itself saying, me too. Every brand has thought their strategy well before they come to us. They've done their groundwork. They may like a product texture here and there, which they may say, oh, you know, Sandhya, this gel feels great. But their storytelling is different. I don't think brands will survive if they keep saying, look at Pilgrim, I'm another Pilgrim. Or look at Dot and Key, I'm another Dot and Key. So everyone's storytelling is differentiated. And we as formulators have to ensure that we weave in that difference to deliver that promise. That's important.
I'll take on from what Sandhya said. So it is about delivering a quantitative story with an emotional content. It's all different for different brands. Now coming to packaging, everybody would say that we would be doing a yeoman service, my part of packaging fraternity, if we, greatest innovation would be to deliver packaging in 15 days, right? So that's on a lighter note, but where we come in is that we have to make available techno-commercially savvy talent to interact with brands, to interact with formulators. As she said, we need to understand what journey are they on, understand every aspect of it. You don't have to become a mastan in every field, but then understanding the journey so that we can connect better. So that helps us. I call ourselves packaging aggregators. When we talk to many brands, many customers, there are a lot of trends which emerge. And if we get them together and then engage with brands like Pilgrim, Dot and Key, we bring that insights. We bring that insights on board to make their journey authentic. So that's, I would say, it's a workforce, the talent which comes on board to interact with them. So we have to do that. That's the first innovation. It's not picking up a bag and making a presentation. I think that's the first change that has to happen. Number two is, yes, from a differentiation point of view, since they are developing molecules and formulations, it needs to be delivered. So right kind of dispensations have to be created for targeted, for spot, whatever they are creating. So we have to complement that. So that is another aspect. That's again understanding what their journey is. And as Sandhya was saying, that 80% of the packaging strategy starts, it's all conceived in first 10% of their journey. So we all know what needs to be done. So I think we can complement better. We can complement better. As you said, it's an ecosystem.
Yes, absolutely. And
Yeah.
even as brand aggregators, we work a lot with startups who are doing novel ingredients. They're using beta-glucan, cordyceps. I mean, these are like French language to a lot of Indian consumers who don't know these novel ingredients in the market. So as an agency also, it's our responsibility to kind of interlink the formulation inside with the packaging outside. So what kind of messaging strategy to use, what kind of architecture, iconism in terms of information, showing the benefits of the formulation, understanding the ingredients. So for us also, it's kind of a challenge that we work with, but it's definitely an exciting challenge to do with a lot of brands. And it's our job to make sure that in a sea of brands that are there on online marketplaces, where do we create the desirability with the packaging and the information display for the consumer to first click on your brand, even on a Nykaa store on an Amazon. So that's what we do even as an agency. Now moving forward also, what we have noticed is brands who start off as skincare brands are foraying into new categories. So one question I would like to ask to Anurag is basically you have really carved a niche in the skincare market with Pilgrim, and I've seen a lot of people really praise the brand. One of the things I found super exciting was the launch of a new category, which is makeup. So what was the strategy behind launching makeup, and how are you differentiating yourself in the color care category?
So we started with skincare, hair care in the early days, and when we realized that our consumer were asking for color cosmetics from Pilgrim, that's the time we decided to enter color cosmetics. And the one route we have taken is we have worked with a lot of ingredients which are international ingredients. That is what Pilgrim stands for. And there's this big trend of skincare infused makeup, skincare infused color cosmetics. And that's the kind of offering Pilgrim has. So almost all our color cosmetics are very heavy on both skincare actives and functional aspects of color cosmetics or makeup. So that's the blend we are providing. And these borrow from the learnings which we have had on the skincare side. So for example, a kakadu plum from Australia, which is a very rich source of vitamin C, that's what is getting used in some of our BB creams, foundations. A squalane, which is derived from Spanish olives in our case, and a hyaluronic acid, which are very hydrating. We realized that consumers were not happy with the way liquid lipsticks would dry out their lips. So our liquid lipsticks will last long, but not dry out the lips. So this is the balance we have tried to strike. So there will also be consumers who are looking only for functional benefits. So if you're looking for a 16-hour long-lasting color, lipstick, perhaps Pilgrim is not the brand, but that's not what our consumer is also. So our consumers are saying 8 to 10 hours is fine, but I don't want the liquid lipstick to really make my lips feel dry, chapped, and almost like, very, very dry and cracked after application in just a few minutes or a few hours. So that's our consumer, and that's what we are trying to cater to, and we have seen very good acceptance of our color cosmetics range, given that while Pilgrim has been around for a few years now in skincare, hair care, color cosmetics is just a 7-8 months old initiative for us. But the kind of consumer love we have seen is very encouraging.
Fantastic. And I think this is a question which I would like to ask even to all panelists, is when you start a brand, of course, you build a niche. You are either into cosmetics or you're into hair care. But to build relevance in the market, you have to constantly launch new categories, which could be maybe outside your expertise, but at the same time, you're trying to reach out to a larger base of consumers. So how do you build that strategy behind it? What is the decision making?
I think it's important to understand the brand strength before entering into any new categories or areas, right? I mean, I don't buy into this that, if you're into personal care, you have to do, a color cosmetic. Somebody is doing it and then they have a clear vision behind it, right? And why can't a brand be just a, personal care brand and become a unicorn, right? So, I mean, it's either there's an extension that, you've created as a background to the brand, which can be further applied to different categories and from a consumer lens, they can get a different benefit out of it. I mean, if you are just, behind the race and you're following the trends, I don't think that's a long-term game. So, like in our case, I was just talking about the star as a technology. We have the patent talks about that efficacy of a product is even higher as compared to an oral drug. That's the claim that we have, that we can be better efficacious on skin compared to somebody who's taking an oral drug for the same use. So we have to think like, can we go ahead and do a makeup, and talk about vitamins through makeup as a range, right? Why not a vitamin D in a lipstick? Can we do that through our technology? Can we leverage the technology? So I think core has to be very, very important from a phase out perspective or an expansion perspective. And yeah, I think that's what I would say.
Hi, Nikita. That's a very interesting question, and I think we debate this internally quite often. I actually have a contrarian view to what Anurag just said. For us, we feel that India's #1 skincare brand exists with only 6 SKUs. So, that tells you that you don't need to have a lot of SKUs or brand extensions to really grow a brand. Secondly, brand extensions most often fail than succeed. And there are numerous cases for the same. So at Dot & Key, we strongly feel that if we focus on one specific category, which is mostly face, there's a very deep market ready to buy a Dot & Key product or a skincare product. And, we just say that the market size is limited, but each one of us collectively and individually is growing that market. And we have the right to have a very large market share in each category and subcategory of skin to be a 1,000 crore or 2,000 crore brand, and you don't need to extend. Having said that, I do believe that there is certain commonalities between color and skin, and there's a hybrid that kind of exists, which might be more towards the skin, which we felt either a color brand or a skincare brand can actually launch those products. So we are going in that direction for incremental growth and incremental category sizing. For example, strobe cream, lip balm, etc. Right? So they are in the middle of color and skin, right? Which will be great. But we are very clear that skin for us is a very large market. We really want to be seen as probably the #1 player in skin, and really go deep in that category rather than extensions. Because, from a pure branding perspective, the more number of categories you're known for, the less you're known for one single category. And that really dilutes the brand in the long term. And, our theory is that the more number of words that you associate a brand with, the less each word stands out. For example, if you say one word to someone, they'll remember it. But if you say 10 words to someone, they won't remember it. So in the longer term, from a consumer lens, it's best to say less about less products than say more about a lot of products, because then you're diluting each individual category you're working with. And we are very sure that focusing on one category and doing that really well is the only short way to succeed in the longer term, maintain your market share and do it profitably.
So I think it's a brand call, right? Extensions. We're seeing a lot of brand extensions, and I think if extensions fit into their strategies and they have made their space with that consumer segment, go for it. But I agree with Suyash somewhere. As a manufacturer, I feel ये one movie hero नहीं है, इसमें बहुत सारे heroes हैं. So it takes away from what you're enjoying, who you're seeing. But saying that, I think we're witnessing a time where we're seeing brand extensions of the most traditional brands that have affinities. For example, Gulabari, which has affinity with rose, Vaseline. I mean, I think they're in every, working with every new ingredient. We've seen the glutathione range from them, where the affinity of Vaseline is straight away with petroleum jelly. I don't think anybody calls it petroleum jelly. People say Vaseline. So I think that affinity definitely does get diluted. But Saying that, also brands like Vaseline have spent years in there, and new brands are doing it much faster. But I think it's well a call that the brand takes, knowing where their business is and where they want to take the brand. Really.
Again, I would say that yes, brands take a final call. The journey is what they tread, but then as I said, we need to be aware what is the packaging strategy, what is the journey, where we can complement. If they are going for an extension, do we have a complemented packaging format to support their growth? So I think this is where we come into picture. But finally, a brand extension will be a brand call.
Okay. No, I agree. Packaging strategy is extremely important in today's day and age because it's the first glance of differentiation for the consumer, be it offline and online. So my question is actually to Suyash now. So Dot & Key has actually been quite recognized for its unique packaging. And I believe you have invested a lot in mold development to build that differentiation in the market. And what, even for the audience, it would be nice to know that though it's a very big investment decision, how have you built, what was the strategy behind building this differentiation, first of all, and putting that investment into mold development to, create some sort of an iconic, unique shape of, the primary pack? So how has it helped you also in your brand success?
Sure, I think great question. So I think every brand is distinct, and what a brand strives for. A brand doesn't exist in reality, it exists in consumers' minds only. So the question is, how do you get a larger figment of the consumer's mind? And I think one of the key takeaways was visual. Like, you had to go back to the sensories, and visual was a key part of it. And the distinctness for any product comes from how it looks physically, and that's only after that is when you really start applying the product. So in beauty, it's a lot about how beautiful the packaging looks, and everything has to be beautiful, right? And that's why you're in the business of beauty. And we realized that early on when we were starting out, that the moment you're distinct, your packaging is beautiful, and the moment you run your ads, it's more sticky, right? So fundamentally, we wanted to build a brand which is sticky, which remains in people's head, and which can be long-term. And we were investing in our brand by investing in a mold. And we are backing our brand. That's what consumers want to see. So I think collectively, that really worked out for us. So we have about 22 design patents in Dot & Key's name across all our designs. And we make sure any product that we launch, we want to try and launch it in distinct shapes and sizes, which is patented. Because every time consumers sees that, they know it's a Dot & Key wherever they see it across the world. And our ads are more effective, of course, because of that. Plus, there's a lot of word of mouth that needs to be built in to really build a successful and profitable beauty brand. For us, our shape of our jars and containers is so distinct that the moment you're going to your friend's house and you see a jar, it's a Dot & Key, right? So you're being reminded about the brand everywhere you go. So I think as a network effect together, there's a halo that kind of comes in because you're being seen across. And that gives a very long-lasting, profitable growth to a brand by a very small investment that you make initially.
Okay, because we do a lot of product design also for brands. And usually the challenge is that the mold development, and especially from the MOQ's point of view, whether you get it done from Europe, you get it done from China, you import the mold from China. So it's a huge investment for a lot of brands. So what do you think should be the key consideration? Because whatever brands we have worked with, they always talk about building a product design.
So very interesting question. I think the first thing you need to think about is, are you backing your brand? Are you in it to win it? Because if you're in it to win it for the long term and ready to go through the struggles of building it, you should invest in a mold. Whatever it takes, it'll reduce your marketing spends drastically, and it'll more than pay for itself in the longer term. Once you reach the volumes that you want to, it'll actually be cheaper than actually getting it off the rack. Plus, when you own your own molds, you can really manufacture in a larger quantity. You're not stuck to someone else's mold. when you're growing faster than what the mold maker can actually produce. So I think there are many layers. It benefits you as a brand. Plus, you're seen as way more premium. So people are ready to pay you more for the mold. So if you ask me, one of the best decisions that we ever made at Dot & Key was actually investing in our own mold from day one. Obviously, our product launches get delayed because of molds not being made. In fact, right now, 2 of our launches are actually stuck because of the mold not being made on time. But we know for a fact the moment it launches, there will be a plethora of consumers like rushing to get our new product and get hold of that cutesy product just because it looks great. So I think it's always great to invest in a mold, and it's probably the best decision you might make.
Okay. So please do come to me in case you choose to invest in a mold, and we'll help you build differentiation. Okay, so regarding both packaging and formulation, we can see there's a lot of trend that's going towards clean, minimalism. Sustainability is a very big talking point for consumers. So what I would want to understand from all of you is, from your perspective with the brands that you own or you work with, how are you taking sustainability as a key initiative for, be it formulations, be it packaging design, and even for your line of operations? So maybe we can start with Pardeep. Yeah.
Yeah, when we look at sustainability, for us, of course, we interact with bigger clients. They have got their sustainability strategy in place. So I would say for us, it is how do we run our operations sustainably. That's one part about your solar energy, about your water, but it's actually what will make difference to the package. Now, here we talk about, it started with PIR, post-industrial regrind. Now we are talking about PCR. So what is the content of PCR which can go into the tube? Because then there are certificates, because it has to be validated or certified. So there are bodies like EcoCert, APR. So if you get those validations to take it through, so that's the start of journey, because sustainability is a journey. It's not an end in itself. So our job is to move from linear to circular. So that is what we do. We do from day one when we interact with bigger players. Well, we have smaller players where they want to tread a sustainability path. It is still some time, but we bring that information on board. This is what is happening in the industry. So they become part of that as well. But for future, I would say that it's not sustainability in isolation which will make a difference. It is how we would be attractive for external would be our ESG scores. So we have to start working on ESG as an aspect. So that's about governance, environment, and compliance. Because now we are talking about not a profit for us, it is prosperity for all. So it is like we talk in ecosystem ways. So that is where sustainability comes in. But then yes, there are a lot of things what we can do if we understand what the brand strategy is, so that we superimpose our journey with that, so that it's a collaborative journey. We co-create things.
So sustainability, one of my favorite topics. Okay, I think there's a lot that can be done in terms of raw material used or in terms of internal operations, because we use a lot of water, for example, in our production process. So obviously steps are taken to make sure that there is no wastage. But I think the larger responsibility that I feel is that can we give an option of a sustainable product end-to-end solution to the consumer? It has its own challenges because I'm sure customer habits are very difficult to change. So it's, there's a lot of work that's in progress, which I can't really talk about right now. But we are trying our best to come up with solutions which are sustainable, where we can literally go packaging free. I'm not trying to put you out of business, but literally going, take the water out of the formula and see if we can innovate well enough that we can actually look at bigger measures to cure this big problem. But there's only very little we're able to do on sustainability, unless the brands are also willing to join the ride and do something there. But whatever little measures can be taken, like I said, controlling processes is something that we can do.
Just to add on to the question, because now we have the brand owners here. It's very easy these days for brands to call themselves sustainable. Oh, we are a sustainable brand because we do eco-friendly packaging, we use seeded paper, da-da-da, all that, right? But there's a huge meaning behind sustainability, right? So, which I also struggle with advising brands in terms of packaging solutions. How can you be sustainable? Do you think it also makes sense for brands to maybe, like, let's say, define their own KPIs? Because honestly, there are no standardizations in sustainability today, especially in the beauty and personal care, though fashion is something which is trying to do it. But what, in your view, should brands do in order to maybe not call themselves sustainable, but let's say conscious? And how do they educate the customer in the right way?
I think it's a great question. If you ask me what are we doing for sustainability, I'd say not enough. What we primarily do is just make sure that all the packaging which is plastic, move that to glass. But unfortunately, there are parts of the packaging which will always be plastic. And India as a country is very price conscious. So we can't build in anything extra for the packaging and give it to the consumer, because the consumer is not ready to pay that extra burden which comes with more green alternatives for the same products. Because there are different grades of plastic that come, which are recycled, which can be reused, and a lot of parts of your packaging can be made from that, but unfortunately it comes at a cost which consumers don't pay, so the brands can't. And that's a challenge in my head, because for me, if you sell so many units and you assume that the market size is so large, and the number of units that might be coming in the market, which is being binned, especially plastic, which is non-biodegradable, it's a problem. From an environment standpoint, and as a founder, it doesn't make me feel great about it. But having said that, I think because the world's getting warmer and more people are getting aware about it, and the younger generation is very conscious about it. So there will be initiatives and options coming in the market because of the demand, which will be more affordable, which will be for more mass appeal, hopefully biodegradable or reusable. And we'll probably be the first brand using those products once it's available.
I think it's really tough to answer this because because you can say anything, but we all know at the core of the heart that there's a long way to go on sustainability, right? I mean, we can claim many things that we small steps is what we're taking right now, but there's a lot more that as a brand we should own, going forward on sustainability. So, although Clensta, abbreviated form is clean, sustainable, and affordable, but that sustainable piece is still, there's a large definition yet to come from our side. I think we've talked about saving water, right? Our first technology, which is waterless, is itself on saving water. We've recently did a campaign wherein we've showed that we've saved almost close to about 1 billion liters of water already through the sales that we've done on waterless. So I think through that we're trying to create an impact. We've run a campaign wherein anybody who's buying from us through our website, we are donating again the same amount of water to someone in need, right? That's again a small example. And I think more, from a sustainability perspective, we can't do away as of now from plastics, right? And we continuously look for options wherein maybe in the longer run we can move away from that. But till the time we do that, I think what we are doing is we are trying to be plastic positive, and we're trying to recycle more plastic than we consume. So I think that's what you can add on to the environment as a brand. But I think I agree to what Suyash said, that there's still a lot to be done on this. And personally, if you ask me, I'm not very happy of what we are contributing to the environment. So we should do more about it as a brand, and especially as a new age brand. Yeah.
So I think what Pardeep was saying, that sustainability is not a destination, it's a journey. And I think all of us are on that journey. How we look at it is in three parts: good for the planet, good for the society, good for me, which is the consumer. Uh, Good for the planet typically does get associated with the packaging, but there is a second component of ingredients. So there are also ingredients when they go into, the dirty water which gets washed off with bath, they will go and damage the environment. So there are always choices to be made, which are, especially in sunscreens and many other products, where you can make choices which are more environment friendly and don't go and pollute the rivers and oceans, which are very critical for the ecosystem. On the plastic front, yes, so you were talking about the KPIs, Nikita. We incidentally measure plastic used per dollar of revenue and paper used per dollar of revenue we generate. And it's an ongoing target that every year can we shave off a little. So while I don't not recall the exact numbers, our team is here in case anybody is interested. We have saved a few metric tons of paper and plastic through various initiatives last year. For example, while I agree with Suyash how critical it is for a beauty brand to look beautiful. And monocartons are a very important part of it. But we did away with a lot of monocartons wherever it was possible because it saved on a lot of paper. And while a few consumers noticed and appreciated it, there was some backlash also, and we had to handle it, explaining why the carton was just for the outer beauty and it was not really required for the complete product experience. And can we save a few micrograms of plastic in every bottle we are making? And that's the journey we are taking. Obviously, we have to use recycled plastic, recycle paper. All of those initiatives have to come into play. So all of this put together is where, slowly and steadily we will all, brands like Clensta, Key, us, and many others will kind of march forward. But all of us are new age brands, so it is almost a given that we'll be vegan, we'll be cruelty free. I think the larger brands, the legacy brands, continue to not being vegan, not being cruelty free. These are issues, and we have very, very small part of the market right now. So all the entire digital brands ecosystem put together will be less than 5% or 10% is my sense. But what happens to the other 90%? Right? So there is a lot of work which the entire ecosystem has to put pressure on the larger brands to say, what are you doing? Why are you not vegan yet? So why is it that all our packaging is still saying we are vegan? Because there are brands which are not vegan. Why should that be a claim at all? It should become like a parity for the entire industry. Why is it that we have to still say that we are PETA certified cruelty free? It should not be a claim at all. It should not be a differentiation factor. The entire industry should just be PETA certified cruelty free. So that's the journey which we have to take as the beauty and personal care industry. And brands like us, consumers who are in the room and consumers outside, will put pressure and the entire ecosystem to kind of move in that direction.
Absolutely. And like it was rightly mentioned, it's an ongoing journey. I always refrain brands from saying that please don't call yourself sustainable. It's a very long call and it can kind of lead to a backlash also in the market. Just because you do packaging or you plant trees if someone buys your product doesn't make you a sustainable brand. There are a lot of nuances to it. So even what I encourage also brands is to take baby steps. Call yourself conscious, call yourself responsible. And whatever baby steps you're taking, kind of educate the consumer on that also. Build your own KPIs, standardization processes. One very interesting brand, of course it's not personal care or beauty, is the Caring Group, which actually in the fashion industry, they build their own standardization processes and KPIs to educate consumers on how they're working as a sustainable company. So there's a lot of KPIs based on water conservation, animal welfare. For example, they source wool, so then how are they taking care of the communities, etc. So they have built measurable KPIs to educate consumers on the efforts they're doing. So start with baby steps, but don't call yourself sustainable. I don't think that's very advisable in that way. Now moving on, one thing which I find very interesting is the entire concept of collaborations and brands acquiring new brands. For example, now there's also the Good Glam Group, which is acquiring brands. So NASA has become like a conglomerate also. So my question would be, I would say to Ashish, first of all. So Pariniti, of course, has been the face of your brand, right? So what was the strategic move behind getting Pariniti on board, and how is she in line with Clensta's values and the DNA?
So, if you, I don't know how many of us knows Parinithi's actual background, right? I mean, she's she's a business finance graduate from UK, and she was an investment banker before coming into Bollywood. She comes from a business family, understands the entire ecosystem, and if you talk to her, she doesn't sound like a Bollywood celebrity, more like a businesswoman. So I think while we were chatting out to few of them for collaboration, I think why we stick to Parinithi was one, her business sense, to the overall, and her, overall involvement that she showed, that she would be contributing, and energy that she brings to the table, and like is infectious, and more like a celebrity endorsement wherein you get celebrity on for a shoot for a day and then it's over. You use that and distribute it for an entire year. It's not like that. I mean, we have good 30, 35 days with her in a year, right? And she comes and ensure that she's talking to her partners. She do store walk-ins. She do meet and greets with the consumers that we select through different platforms. Uh, if you see her engagement on the social medias, her own page, it's huge. I mean, every second day she is talking about Clensta, interacting with consumers. So I think she's very, very involved in terms of, how this journey should shape up and how do we engage more and more consumers. And of course, she brings herself 75 odd million followers. So that's again, yeah, that's massive. So it's overall, it's a complete package, and it was easy for us to convince us because she herself understands business, as good as maybe any one of us.
Okay. So considering the highly competitive landscape of beauty and personal care, everyone is really looking to attract investments. So what I would like to ask the brand owners today is, what should a brand meet or exhibit to attract significant investments?
I think I can talk about it because we are in the middle of something. uh, I think, there's a clear, road to profitability which every investor looks into right now, and one is a vision of, a brand that people buy into. Either a lot of us, who are leading D2C businesses, there are burns in the initial stages. People understand that, but if you have a clear vision of where are you heading to, and if you have a long-term roadmap created for a brand, and how will you over time, evolve around that in next 4 or 5 years, I think yes, people do look into that very, very strongly. And I think the most important piece is every investor is looking into BPC specifically because it has now become a very, very cluttered space. And if you talk to them, most of the investors have already invested in 2, 3 brands already. So, I mean, they clearly look at the differentiator and a long-term value addition to the ecosystem that you can do not only in India but also in the global markets. So, while talking about, to few investors very initially, I think a clear differentiator is very, very important from a brand perspective. I think we talk a lot about, waterless as a technology, which is globally unique to Clensta, and which has a different use case altogether. The target audience is different. So I think you need to do something of that sort and create a different vision for your brand for an investor to get that kind of interest level into the brand.
So I think the brand differentiation is extremely critical, which Ashish has already spoken about. Apart from that, I'll just add 3 T's: team, TAM, and traction. Team is who are the people behind the brand and can they build a scalable and a large business. TAM is, how large the market is in beauty personal care. I think it's very, very high. So most investors are already convinced on it's a large market, but do you have a unique take on that market? And the third is traction. What is the kind of sales you're doing? What is the kind of growth you are seeing? And what is the kind of repeat rates you are seeing? And what is the consumer love which is there for the brand or not there?
I think they covered most of it. But I think history of how your brand has been doing. Is it moving towards the right direction? Really means a lot to investors. I think background of the founder is really critical. Like, what is the chance of the founder being successful? Because you invest in a brand at a seed stage where you're only seeing the founder and the founder's experience. So as long as the founder understands the space, is really committed to it, and has a past history of successfully doing something, I think just chances of really getting funding is much higher. And I think that's the points they covered really well.
Fabulous. So, do we have time? Okay, I just have one final question then I'll ask. So basically, my question is open-ended. It's basically about, as an ecosystem that we are, be it agencies, suppliers, formulation experts, brand owners, right? So what steps do you feel are needed to collaboratively help address the challenges of sustainability, innovation, and quality assurance? So maybe Sandhya, if you can just throw some light on that.
Sustainability, innovation, and
Quality
quality.
assurance,
So I think three of them will have to work differently in different spheres, really. Quality, really, from the manufacturing lens, it's what QMS systems are followed internally for operations. Like we at Vedic have a robust ERP system that helps us to track and trace raw materials. We work with over 1,600 different raw materials. Each raw material goes through strict chemical analysis before we really clear the use of that in the batch. We have a GLP certified lab. So I think the infrastructure for quality assurance is absolutely key, because any good product is an outcome of good quality system, right? Sustainability, I think we've already talked about, and innovation is evolving, ever evolving, and has to keep going. As formulators, as manufacturers, we are constantly meeting new standards of compliances also. I think what's important is to also look at catering to the international market. I think that is one place where we're pretty weak. Like, I'm always wondering, why is it that we won't service international brands? India really doesn't service a Clinique, Estee Lauder. I think we need to build that robust system. I think today we have the infrastructure, both for actually everything, innovation and infrastructure to deliver a great product. So to actually link sustainability, innovation, and QA is a little difficult process, just because sustainability is a difficult one, I think, there. But innovation and QA hand in hand. If innovation is great and quality isn't, it's a failure. If innovation is poor and quality is great, it's a failure. So I think they go hand in hand. And from the time we start ideating, or when a brand typically briefs us, we consider the source. Where are we getting the raw materials from? Are we working with verified and certified vendors? So it's quite a big ecosystem. And I think a lot of compliances, a lot of documentation, and a lot of processes have to be followed to build that bring the whole thing together in a qualitative manner, largely.
Anyone else who would like to throw light on the question? Yeah.
So when you talk about, she brought about a point on responsible sourcing. So this is an important aspect when we talk about compliance and sustainability in a connected way. Responsible sourcing is one important element. And when we talk about sustainability, it's also maybe brands might be doing, because we work with a lot of customers. They have got their own qualification criteria for us to come on board. And there are customers who are EcoVadis certifications. It's, again, as I told you, it's a journey. Innovation, we keep on working on it, as brands would need newer barriers, newer dispensation mechanisms, newer applicators, newer packaging, so we have to superimpose our strategy with them. And testing, I would say then, I would draw your attention to transit, because we are now talking about mostly about omni-channel. You don't have products for one channel or the other channel. It still exists, but then it's more omni-channel. So transit testing like ISTA 6 and all, so I'm not talking about formulations and all, but this has become very relevant, whether your package as a whole is going to last that vagaries of transport from one end to another. So these are other testing protocols which have to come on board, and they should be uniform. They should be, everybody talks about same KPIs so that we can deliver.
Anyone else, or we are open? Okay. So any questions from the audience? Great.
Hello. As a first-time founder, it becomes easy to become obsessed with your product quality, the touch and feel factor of it. But my question is, do factors like marketing kind of outweigh the product quality? Does the best product really win in this industry, or how do you balance both?
So I think product is always the hero, but you need the right marketing strategies to communicate that effectively to the right audience. So it's the entire funnel of the right product with the right communication to the right audience that makes the product successful.
I wanted to ask to the Make in India companies that make the products, how would you, like if you're going into the international base, how would you how does your product stand out? Because there's, like in the US, there's pharmacies that are in the same price and the products are the same. So how would these products stand out? Yeah.
If you, first of all, you need to first define a vision of going international, right? I mean, when you launch a brand, do you see yourself going international in next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, right? That is one piece of it, because there are a lot of brands who, would love to stick to Indian market. And, but if you really want to be an international brand, then it has to start from day zero, right? And your innovation, your certification, everything has to be internationally compliant and just not India, right? So it's very, very important while you, manufacture a brand and, manufacture products, or you get into the research piece of it. There are a lot of ingredients that you study which are banned abroad, right? And which are very well accepted in India. We've seen that. And so every time, if you process is that, then every time you touch any international country, you will have to either change your ingredient list, you will have to do tweakings into your formulations. So it is better to be, take care of that while you are building the brand, and build it from a long-term perspective rather than just a very short-term.
Sorry. I'll lead on to the same question as well, is rather than going international, why, say India is a very good combination where we go into Ayurveda and we go into haldi and honey and so many natural ingredients. But when we compare it to the K-beauty, which is the Korean products, they have the same. They have jeju, orange tea tree oil. Then why those products are internationally acclaimed or internationally considered as better or a higher quality, and India is one of the growing market of the K-beauty products in terms of the packaging as well, because they're a little bit more minimalistic compared to our packaging. But why having the natural source or the plant-based source, which is the base of Indian products, why are we not in the same category in terms of excellence, or can we be in some years in future? Where do you see as a brand, and plus in terms of the marketing as well? Where do you see that future?
So incidentally, we are one of the brands which is bringing K-beauty to India. having said that, there are fantastic Ayurveda brands from India. And the reason why we didn't get into Ayurveda was there was so much work already happening in Ayurveda that we didn't feel the need to be yet another Ayurveda brand. We wanted to offer something which was not available. So is it possible to come up with great formulations using Ayurvedic ingredients, Indian spices, Indian herbs? Absolutely. At the same time, do the ingredients which we source from Jeju Island, like a volcanic lava ash, white lotus, camellia, they also have great properties and fairly differentiated. There is a demand for those kind of products. So what we have tried to do is bring the best of world ingredients. So Jeju Islands is one of the places. We bring red wine from Bordeaux in France, patwa from Amazon rainforest, and we have identified which kind of hair or skin needs each of these ingredients work the best for. For example, our shampoo, which is a patwa keratin shampoo, which works extremely well with dry frizzy hair. And that's the offering we have there. Can you do a similar formulation with Indian ingredients? Perhaps. We are not the right brand for that, but there will be brands which will offer you a good formulation with Indian ingredients.
And do we sit at the same level in terms of like international acceptance? Like being an Indian brand compared to if I compare it with like Korean brands? Do we have the same acceptance at international level, or can we see that in future as an Indian brand?
So I would definitely hope so. I think it's very early days for Indian digital brands, since that's what the three of us represent, for Indian digital brands to go international. Pilgrim has just started going international. We are seeing a lot of consumer love, but very, very early for us. So to say whether we are seeing the same level of acceptance, I'll hold my horses. But probably next year, I'll be able to share a little more learnings around how the international markets are responding to an offering like Pilgrim.
Thank you so much.
Just to add on to that, actually, we as India, we still have a long way to go in terms of highlighting ingredients that are sourced in India, born in India at the international level. But there are brands which are doing it. For example, Forest Essentials launched a store in London. They did an entire repositioning strategy, trying to be the global face of Ayurveda. Then Kama Ayurveda has also launched a store in London now. So there are brands that are taking steps, but as a brand, you need to have that value, the sense of pride, and I would say the perseverance to really educate the customer abroad. And it takes a lot of investment in terms of activations, educating about ingredients. So there's a lot of effort that goes also. It's not like it cannot happen. It will happen for sure, because internationally, a lot of countries, especially the France, the UK, Germany, they're really valuing Ayurveda ingredients and even homegrown ingredients, as a matter of fact, like kitchen ingredients, for example, just to use for skincare. So it's happening, but it's a long journey to go. But as a brand, you have to take that call and choice as to how do you want to reposition yourself, first of all, and what efforts do you want to take to build that presence and education and understanding in the international market.
Hello guys, my question was like, as Mr. Pardeep mentioned that we talk about sustainability, innovation and quality assurance. So there was an ESG report which was in between quite well known, because BlackRock had brought this concept, and then with BlackRock you had Vanguard and big other asset managers and wealth managers who had come into it. But then the problem was, how do we monetize carbon credits? Because basically even in this room that we are seated in, there is carbon credits to be monetized, but there's no quantifiable parameter in which we could. So then even technologies like blockchain tried to tokenize carbon credits, but that also failed miserably. So what we are seeing is something which is also going very greenwashing, because it's like reports are coming in stating that this is what the ESG rating is, but they don't hold any validity. So how can we then change this aspect? Because since Pardeep ji mentioned about ESG, that was something which brought to my notice as well.
Okay, a good question. I'm not an expert on ESG, but I'll try to answer your question. So we had a question prior to which was about Indian brands, Ayurveda brands going global. Yes, formulation is important, understanding is important, creating then brand is important, but it is compliance and governance also to survive in a long run. So when we talk about ESG, yes, ESG scores, we are still far away. But you should understand, when we look at the country framework, there's a lot of changes which are happening. First step is BRSR reporting, which is started with listed companies. And this talks about environment, this talks about compliance, this talks about governance and social aspects also, including D, E, and I, right? So I would say that as this emerges down the line, because all companies would report, you will have a good reporting structure where it actually reflects your ESG journey as well. It has got elements, 60%, which covers ESG journey. Because when you talk about GRI frameworks, then you have got other frameworks in US. So it addresses that. That's what Mr. Modi is saying, that he wants to go global. So unless until we are compliant. So BRSR reporting in India with top listed 100,000 companies, and we'll have more of them coming in by 2028, 2030. So news is going to tighten. So we'll have to do that. Okay.
I think there was one question you said.
Yeah, you. Quick question.
Okay.
Once again, I'm having the mic come to you. Just give a minute.
Hi Suyash, my question is for you about the tinted sunscreen which you were talking about, your new launch. I wanted to know that how are you planning to educate the Indian consumers, which are very tricky to educate about any new concept in the market, that how you are different from the already present CC sunscreens and the foundation based SPF protection creams, and how are you planning to, since you are a digital first company, I want to know what are the specifics you are planning to do.
Hello.
Yeah, it's on. We can hear that. We can hear you.
I think it's a great question. It's fairly simple. So the product was created after understanding if the consumers wanted. So the moment you launch it, there are influencers who start talking about it organically, right? So we don't have to really spend much on advertising or communicating the product effectively. So once that starts going viral, you see consistently more and more people post about the product, use the product. So there's the organic communication done to potential consumers. And of course, our database of consumers who we've served before, we obviously send our emailers, WhatsApp, and probably run some meta ads to educate them as well. Because education is a marathon, it's not a sprint. So you have to educate them over 6 months, a year, 2 years, constantly to make sure that more and more consumers are coming to the funnel to buy the product. But it always starts from a product being a need gap, and then a lot of people starting to want the product from the day it's launched. That's how we look at it. Does that answer your question, or?
Partially, I wanted to know the specifics, because CC creams and the current foundations which have SPF protection are very close to tinted sunscreen.
Okay, so what's the difference is what you're asking?
What's the difference and how are you going to communicate it? And when you say you're doing it, so influencers are doing it by themselves, do you mean that you're doing it through influencer marketing, or they are organically picking up your
They are organically picking up. So basically the difference is very clear. One is sunscreen, the other is a foundation CC BB cream, which also has sunscreen in it. So sunscreen typically needs to have 3 fingers full. This is like a small teaspoon kind of usage for BB CC cream. So sunscreen users already have a need gap, right? So the moment they have a need gap, it's easier to communicate to them and they take to it faster in general. So you typically create a content around it and run ads, do CRM, and obviously if the product is that good, people organically start talking about it. That's, I think, the only ways to communicate a product.
Thanks, Suyash. Just a small counter question. I wanted to know, basis what data did you come to a conclusion that this is a need in the market, that we need to formulate the tinted sunscreen? Like, what was your database?
It's fairly simple, actually, because Anisha, my wife, she uses a BBCC cream, and it used to say SPF 50, and we're like, wait, like you use a pea size, SPF 50 really needs 3 fingers full of sunscreen in it. So there was a very clear need gap that we identified, and then we validated this theory by talking to people and a lot of listening through social media, listening through Google Trends, calling a lot of consumers. So I think once you have a thesis, you kind of reach out to people to find out what's happening, and then based on that, you really formulate your product.
Thank you.
I'm sure you can take any more clarifications with Suyash on a one-on-one after the session. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I must say, what a knowledgeable and interesting session this has been on a wonderful topic, beauty and personal care. Come on, a huge round of applause to our panelists. We have a small token of appreciation for each of you. Requesting Nikita, if you can please do the honors. Firstly, we would like to present to Pardeep, Wazir. And ladies and gentlemen, you know what to do. You're going to keep the claps flowing. Come on. Sandhya, Sakhuja. I can't hear the claps. Come on. Suyash, Saraf. Ashish, Mishra. Anurag, Kedia. And requesting Sandhya, if you could please present the memento to Nikita. Two powerful women on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, a huge round of applause to our panelists. And can we have a group photograph, please, to mark this momentous moment? Come on, put your hands together for them, ladies and gentlemen.